So it was a naked body thrown into a 6-foot ditch.
Like that's
You were so embarrassed.
That's how I covered
that you
it
were
up.
drawing naked women. That you're like, no, I'm just drawing dead people. No. It's nothing to worry about. I'm just drawing tombstones.
I thought that was better. Hey guys, welcome to Sippin Cosmos. I'm your resident paranormal enthusiast, Ashley.
And I'm your skeptic, Layne.
And I'm somewhere in between. I'm Sarah.
Awesome. Let's get started today. We're going to talk about children who remember past lives.
What?
And past life regression hypnotherapy.
Very interesting.
It's a lot to unpack in one episode, but we're going to try.
When you use the word regression, what does that mean exactly?
So a lot of psychotherapists and therapists use hypnotherapy as a way to work through past life, not past life trauma, just life trauma in your current life. Like, let's say you were traumatized as a child and it's coming out now in anxiety and nightmares or whatever you're experiencing. They'll try to kind of regress you back to that time so you can remember what happened, because a lot of times you block it out. It's in your subconscious. And then to work through it and remember it, and it usually, it's a common tool that helps.
It comes up.
Now, what's weird is Dr. Brian Weiss takes it a step further.
Here we go. Dr. Brian Weiss.
DBW.
These are Dr. Brian Weiss's books. He has it's like a bestseller. Messages from the Many Lives, Many Masters was his first one, and that was about
How do you keep track?
There's a lot. There is a lot.
20, 30 books.
Because I find them interesting, Layne.
That's fair.
Okay. Layne's whole thing is that if this guy is really benefiting financially off of this, he's writing so many books, it's just total bullshit. He's just trying to squeeze out money from everyone that's going to believe in this past life bullshit.
But every book is about the same thing pretty much.
So how many of his books have you read?
I've read 3. I'm on the 4th now. I'm on Same Soul, Many Bodies. It's like the same name.
Many minds, many masters, same souls, different bodies.
It's the same way of saying the same thing over and over. But look.
Only love is real.
Here's the thing. The first book is about this one patient he had, which is what started it all. This one patient came in. She was having terrible anxiety. Nothing was helping. She I think worked in healthcare too, had tried everything. And then finally someone was like, go to Dr. Brian Weiss. They started hypnosis therapy. And then all of a sudden she started saying this crazy shit that literally made no sense for her current life. So they kept delving into it.
So, okay. So this woman was an adult who went to him for anxiety, and then in her hypnotherapy started regressing back to past lives.
Yeah, and this had never happened to him before. He was just as freaked out and weirded out and thought maybe it could be imagination.
He was freaked out.
I know. Well, he was. He was his background is very impressive. He went to, I think, Yale. I don't know, some Ivy League. Someone fact checked me.
I think
on
it was
that.
Yale. You said Yale last week.
Who, Brian Weiss?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I could have been.
I think he went to Trump University.
Oh, well, I didn't know he was that credited.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was the head of psychology at the University of Miami for a while. He's very Columbia and Yale Medical School.
His I have to say his record is very impressive. He's gone to very good schools.
Yeah, and
not gonna lie.
Well, he was very well known, renowned in this field, and he said he really was worried about coming out about this information.
Right, because it's it could really hurt his career.
Totally.
Yeah,
and totally discredit him and everything.
But then he saw the dollar signs, and he's like, you know what? Fuck my reputation.
See, Layne thinks it's all about money, and I'm saying you can benefit financially from something that's also helping people and just interesting, weird stuff that a lot of people would write off as fake or ridiculous. but he actually studied it, and then he started doing this past life regression. He's like
Right.
the number one guy that does this, or actually I think he's retired now.
And it is interesting. It is very interesting.
Yeah, and so all of his other books are about his other clients that came to him after that. Okay,
Right.
so there's more stories to tell. There's more evidence.
All I'm saying
There's
is
more
that
anecdotes
when you write 15 books about the same topic, it's just a little fishy. It seems like a money grab, and I'm always going to stick to that theory.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, there's a
How many
point where
times are you
you're-
going to write the same thing?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
different examples.
And then all these people like you that are obsessed with Brian Weiss are like, I need to get the new Brian Weiss book. I need to give him more money. And I'm going to read the
Honestly-
same anecdote again.
You get 5 books for like, I don't know, $30. It's really not that
Look,
expensive.
they come in a neat little pack.
I know. Look how cute this is.
It is
Who
gorgeous. It's gorgeous packaging.
Who wouldn't want this? It looks great on our set as well.
It
Literally.
matches.
It
I
matches.
didn't even try to match it.
Wow.
Anyway, actually, I heard that Kendall Jenner was reading Only Love Is Real. She posted on her Instagram.
Really?
So Kendall agrees
Another
with me.
reason not to read the book.
Kendall, if you want to be a guest on our show, you're welcome to come talk about Only Love Is Real.
Wait, so
These are our Cosmo martinis, by the way.
yeah, these are amazing.
Cosmic Martini, TM.
Let's
Anyway,
get them on.
Oof,
them
that
on
gulp.
some,
That gulp sounded nice.
I know. It's a good sound.
ASMR.
The three of us watched something over the summer about like these kids who were experiencing this stuff, and there was like a little boy who started remembering like being at war or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they like looked up this guy that he was talking about. He was like he like flew planes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, so this is another phenomenon specifically is children who remember past lives, because it's something that all over the world, children, when they're around 2 to 5 years old, start saying really weird stuff about a past life, and this is how I died, and my name was this, and there's actually accounts of this all over the world, and there's people that study it. And I actually made Layne read, because he's so like scientific. He's like, this is bullshit. Brian Weiss is just trying to make money. So I actually got this scientific, like it reads like it's like a scientific journal. It's honestly really boring to read, but it's about.
I liked it.
Well, there you go. You enjoyed the case studies and the boring science talk about.
Because it actually meant something.
Yeah. Well,
It was physical data.
it's putting it in a dry, just like boring way, but it's basically saying these are accounts that people have come forward saying that has happened.
There
This
is
is a
something
thing.
about like reading about it, like an actual case study, as opposed to just like watching a documentary where it's like, well, this is a form of entertainment. It was something like on Oprah. Maybe that was a different one.
Oh, yeah, that family was on Oprah years ago.
Okay.
But now there's actually a documentary on Netflix called Surviving Death.
Uh-huh.
And one of the episodes is about reincarnation. And they interview this guy as an adult and his family, and he tells his story. Basically, his name is James.
This is the thing you guys were just watching.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. His name's James
Leninger.
what, yeah.
Leninger.
But then he thought he was
Go
James
Bucks and
Houston Jr.
He would draw these pictures of like planes crashing and say weird stuff, like having nightmares, and he was obsessed with planes. And then
His mother asked him to draw a flower, like something pretty, for once. And so he drew a war zone with flowers in it.
I think that's
Oh my god.
adorable.
Cute kid.
Yeah, I can only hope my kid is that psychotic.
But what's interesting is that they could literally trace back. They found names in archival stuff about World War II.
It was uncanny what they were able to uncover here, and
So how do you explain that, Layne?
it was inexplicable. I have to say, I was left speechless.
But
for
my
once.
question is like, why him? Like, why doesn't this happen much more often? You know what I mean? Like, when I was a kid, I wasn't drawing pictures of my past life. Like, I don't think you guys, maybe you were, and like our parents just didn't pick up on it. And
Actually,
Well, maybe you were like,
Ashley,
I
what do you
did draw
got?
weird stuff as a
That's
kid.
true, you did.
I saw Titanic in first grade.
okay.
And then
I love this story.
we're getting into this because I saw Titanic in first grade. I had an older sister, and she was watching it with her friends or something, and so I was able to watch it. I don't think my parents like knew or wanted me to watch it, but I ended up watching it. Whatever.
I watched it in first grade. I watched it when it first came out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I guess in art class in first grade, I started drawing naked women. Like literally that scene in Superbad when
That's
he's
hot.
drawing dicks, like all. When I saw Superbad, I died because that was literally me in first grade, like drawing a naked woman. And then my teacher would be like, "What are you drawing?" My teacher had like a meeting with me about it.
Could we cue the Paris Hilton soundbite? That's hot.
This is childhood trauma that I'm like literally airing on this podcast. So basically, when she would like come over to see what I was drawing, I would try to like cover it up because I knew it was like bad.
I knew it was bad.
I
Still
knew-
did it.
Yeah.
You like couldn't draw it on your own time. You like, yo, this is art class. Like I am tapping into my creativity. I'm drawing Rose. I'm drawing Rose naked.
I was like, the paper's here, the crayons are here. Like, I need to get this out.
You still have any of them?
I should ask my mom about it. She probably blocked it out of her memory because my teacher had a meeting with my mom and was like, just so you know, she's drawing naked women every art time in the class.
You were way ahead of your years. That's usually like third grade, man.
That scene stuck with me though. I remember first watching it.
Come on.
Literally being 6 years old and just being like,
Yeah.
what's happening? Why do I feel like this?
Yeah, like
Draw me like one of your French girls. Oh my
anyway,
god.
I did. So wait,
Well,
when the teacher would come up
You're not
to
a
me-
normal child.
I know.
so
No,
you're
you're
not
really
a normal
not.
person.
No.
So no one else did that.
Mm-mm.
Well, clearly he did in Superbad.
I think
so
I was
I'm not
drawing
the only
like
kid.
the sun in the corner of the page, you know,
Yeah, you do the
with
little
the,
semicircle.
with the horizon.
Yeah.
I did the sun in
I was
the
doing
corner as
that.
well.
I was
Mhm.
making smiley faces. I learned how to do teeth.
That's
Very
so
proud of
innocent.
myself.
I used to draw people, and I would always draw them with forehead lines because I thought forehead lines were like really pretty.
Little did you know, everyone in the world.
Is trying to like
Get rid of
Botox their
them.
forehead lines away. But I would put like pink pimples on them and like, because I thought it was pretty. Like pimples are pink. And like forehead lines, like Reese Witherspoon had them in Legally Blonde.
Wow.
And I was like, why don't I have them? And my mom was like, because you're 9.
Oh my god.
You're envious of Reese Witherspoon's forehead line.
I really was. I really, really was.
You're like 13 going on 30, but in real life.
Shout out Reese's forehead lines.
Shout out to Reese's forehead lines.
Anyway, I didn't finish my stories.
Oh, okay,
When the-
keep going.
When the teacher would come up to me, like to be like, "What are you drawing?" I would cross it out like in black and like this is so
Say it.
I would cross out the naked body like and make it look like dirt and then put like a rip like
Put a rip.
sorry, like a tombstone.
Wow.
Like
So it was a naked body thrown into a 6-foot ditch.
like that's how I cried.
So embarrassed.
That's how I
that
covered
you
it
were
up.
drawing naked women that you're like, no, I'm just drawing dead people. No. It's nothing to worry about. I'm just drawing
I
tombstones.
thought that was better.
nothing going on over here. Just drawing tombstones.
We got really off
Whatever.
track there with the James 3.
That's so funny.
Anyway,
So he signed his paintings or his drawings, if you
James
will,
3.
James 3. So
basically, he said he was on a board.
he said he was the
ship.
third James.
Yeah, he said he was the third James, that he died in a plane crash, that he was a pilot, and that he died in a plane crash. He literally said, "Mommy, like, I died in a plane crash, and that's how I died, and now I'm here, and I'm James 3." And the dad thought he was, like, crazy. This is just his imagination. Anyway, they looked up the name of the boat. He gave a name of the boat. He gave a name of his friend.
Natoma.
Oh, yeah, the
USS
Natoma.
Natoma.
And then the mom was like, "Well, did James have any friends?" Like, because he said his name was James in this other life.
And he goes, Jack Larson.
Yeah. Anyway, Jack Larson was a person on this boat in the Army.
That's crazy.
They looked it up.
So he looked up the USS Natoma first. The father looked up the USS Natoma. He found that it actually was in Japan. And then he found the flight log for the plane that left the boat, the USS Natoma. And he found that one of the assistants on the plane, his name was Jack Larson.
And that there was one guy that
And
died.
one person died on the plane. His name was James Houston Jr.
And that's.
And that's the James that
The James.
our James now, this child.
I have a question. when he would sign all of his stuff, James 3 was using the number 3 or like Roman
Number
numerals?
3.
The number 3.
So who's the second James or the first James?
James Houston Sr.
Yeah, like the James that died was James
James
Houston
II.
Jr. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting.
Interesting. I'm sorry, is the little boy's name James?
Yeah,
Yeah.
by happenstance.
Okay.
But it's just so odd.
Yeah, it's odd. But he's one of, like,
Is
I
it
know you
possible that his father or that his grandfather told him a story, like
Planted
looked up,
this.
planted it in his brain?
That's what I'm wondering.
Like, is that possible? I find it very
said,
possible.
I guess it's possible, but the kid was saying how to build bombs at age 6. He
Yeah,
literally
so his
explained.
crazy grandfather's like, so you take a little napalm and you mix it with some TNT. And,
I
do
mean,
they
I
have
just
him
don't
on
think
video?
so.
Do they have him on video explaining this stuff as a kid?
You know,
They actually took the child to Japan
Are
Yeah,
you
they
serious?
to see the place of James Houston Jr.'s death.
And he was like crying.
And the kid was like
bawling.
crying hysterically.
I mean, look, I believe the
The
story.
mother was like, it's time to say goodbye to James Houston Jr.
Here's the thing, because this is like 1 in thousands of cases. Like, just because we're talking about this one case, like,
That's what I was going to ask. Like, how many are there like this?
there's another one that's in the documentary
have
where
so
a
many
kid
questions.
claims to be this actor
Marty Martin.
named Marty Martin. So this is what's weird about that.
Marty Martin. Marty Martin.
I know, it's like you got no Marty Martin. Yeah, Marty Martin.
Marty Martin.
Marty Martin.
What's interesting about this is, like, this guy is not on the internet at all. You can't look up this guy. Like, he's like an obscure. He was an agent and like a background actor who like was on Broadway once, but it's obscure. Like, this kid, or even like someone in his life, most likely would not have fed him this information. And the kid made 200 claims or something, and they were able to verify most of them. Like, he had a green car. He gave his daughter a dog when she was little, and she didn't like the dog. They like verified all these things about
Verified.
this man.
Hashtag verified.
Blue check.
It's just interesting. I mean, and in all of these stories, the dad is like, I thought it was bullshit.
Yeah,
Like,
it's always the dad that just doesn't trust.
Well, the dad was a good Christian. He's like, I always thought that, the Bible was the right way to look at life. But then I had my son.
no, he didn't talk like that.
He did talk like
That's-
that.
Well, that's the thing is that like with people that are Christian, or at least some denominations like really believe that you shouldn't believe in this stuff or go near this kind of stuff or like
Yeah.
summon, past ancestors or stuff like that, like spirits.
They
and
think
all
it's
that.
demonic,
Well,
Yeah.
in Christianity, like modern Christianity, yeah, it's like it's not in the Bible, so people denounce it and say that it's crazy to think this and blah blah. Meanwhile, everywhere around the world, like Hinduism, Buddhism, like they discuss this openly, and there's a lot more cases in the Eastern world, because I think just because people are more willing to talk about it. Like, think of how many cases here in the Western world haven't been studied or even talked about because people are going to think I'm crazy, or like this is just the
Or
imagination. This
just,
isn't real.
there's a
Like,
chance they're just not happening. Is that a possibility?
That is a possibility.
That the cases in this book and that on that documentary are just very rare cases of just crazy happenstances?
well, it's not rare. If you read that book, Children Who Remember Past Lives, you'll see that there's like thousands and thousands of cases that have been studied. So I'm just saying, think about the ones that haven't been studied. Just statistically, there's probably a lot more.
There probably are.
Or the kids who were
Maybe not a lot
showing
more.
signs of remembering a past life,
I don't know.
and then the parents don't really pick up on it. Nothing really happens, and then years go by and the kids forget about it.
Totally. Like, oh, it was just written off as a dream or whatever.
Yeah.
A weird thing that a kid say.
Right.
Kids say weird things all the time.
Kids say the darndest things.
Kids do say the darndest things. Well, Ashley, you and I did that like hypnotherapy thing. Was that him that was guiding us through it?
Oh, yeah. I made Sarah do like a guided meditation.
Oh yeah.
Tell us how it went.
So it was Brian Weiss.
So that was him.
It was his voice, yeah.
Okay.
And he basically just guided us through basically, okay, like we all hear of hypnosis on like a college campus, and this guy's like on stage and he picks people from the audience and he like makes them do stupid shit.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's just like hypnosis for entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. It works on some people and it doesn't work on other people.
Really?
It
Yeah.
actually does work on some people, hypnosis.
Really?
For sure.
So if a hypnotist is performing somewhere, how do they pick someone from the crowd that they know it's going to work on?
They're
think they
confident. They're
know.
confident that it's going to work on everyone because these hypnotists have
They believe in what
garnered
they do.
skills that actually do work on human beings. Like,
That's crazy.
if you're actually willing and open to take the hypnosis, then you will be hypnotized.
I think the power of suggestion, it just shows the power of suggestion is really strong, especially someone that's just like willing to go with it. And if you're in a if you're in a really relaxed state,
Yeah.
You have to be open to it. If you're not open
Yeah.
to the hypnosis, I don't think it works. But if you're someone who's like, okay, I'll go get hypnotized,
I'll be open to this and
Then
I'll listen to this
I think
person.
you let your body go. You kind of just go with it.
You're like not at the helm anymore.
And then these hypnotists just have the skills to make it happen.
They have their way with your brain.
They got skills that kills.
Well, I think it's when you're in that almost meditative state. You're
Right.
super relaxed. You're like not thinking about your life and you and like your everyday thoughts. You're like just susceptible to like whatever this person's going to guide you through or tell you to do or
Have you guys ever been to see a hypnotist?
No, because I'm not one of those people that wants to be hypnotized.
but I do find it really
Crazy.
interesting as a form of therapy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And like with a licensed therapist guiding you through
Yeah.
certain levels. Like in the one that we did, it was a guided meditation, and he is essentially just getting you in a super relaxed state, like getting you like open the door to the forest. And some people say they have an experience where they are no longer. Well, first he tells you to remember a childhood memory, be
Yeah.
there, really experience it, and you actually had an
Yeah.
experience, right?
Yeah, the memory was just very, very vivid, and I got really emotional. I mean, I wasn't like crying my eyes out, but I definitely started crying, and it just felt really real. It felt like I was there. But you're right, it's just getting into that mental state where you kind of block everything out and you stop thinking about the world and everything, and you're so into the exercise, and he's just walking you through. He's just saying like, look at every detail in the room.
It's a
like,
form of meditation.
yeah, and like remember how the people looked. Maybe they looked a lot younger than they do now. Maybe there's people there who aren't there now. Remember how you looked at the time. Like, how did everything look? And it was just so vivid for me that I truly, obviously I didn't think that I was there, but I felt like I was there.
What did you remember? Can you say your memory?
It was, I just remembered being at my grandparents' house. Like I used to walk on the top of the couch, like the back of the couch, where it's like really thin. I used to like walk on it as a kid, and my grandfather would like hold my hand and like catch me if I fell. And so it was that memory, but I just remembered every little detail. I remember the couch was all frayed from me doing it because I
Did you
would
remember
do it
the
all
smell?
the time.
You're
The
like a
smell as
cat.
well?
Yeah, their house smells like
Every grandparent's house smells.
mothballs,
Yeah, I don't like
it's the
Italian
mothball-
food
the
and
mothball-
chlorine.
Yeah, the mothballs.
Yeah. Oh, they had so many mothballs.
Mine was like my grandparents would mothballs and Jewish food,
Yeah, truly.
like
Yummy.
kasha varnishkas.
It's a horrible smell. It's terrible.
Well, it's like nostalgic, but yeah, not
No,
like
it for me, like it's like a happy memory because it reminds me of my grandparents. But like, who wants to smell like that?
no
Yeah.
one.
I'd rather moths eat my clothes.
Yeah,
Their house smelled
yeah.
like mothballs and chlorine.
I think moths
We're
have eaten
not
my clothes,
age
actually.
shaming here, guys.
No.
Just putting
No.
that out
Except,
Look, young people get moths too.
there. Yeah.
Moths
But
don't.
mothballs are gonna go extinct. Like no one's gonna use mothballs
No.
anymore. In the next probably 15 years, it'll be done.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, no more.
I don't even know
mothballs.
what a mothball is.
It's you put it in your closet and I guess
And
it
it
like
smells like
emits a
shit.
smell and it keeps the moths away from
Oh,
like eating your
God.
clothes.
So at
Who
least your
has, like,
clothes don't have holes.
that bad of a moth problem that you
That's
have to
what
do
I
that.
always thought.
Like,
and
I don't-
then my ex actually would have like every now and then he'd have like a few holes in his sweater. He lived in a really, really old house. His house was super old. So I guess like they'd get moths.
He
in
really
their
could have
closet.
benefited from mothballs.
He could have, but like I wouldn't have been able to deal with that
He
smell.
would have smelled like an old man.
No, I couldn't have done it. He would have smelled like my grandparents. And I'd be like, we're gonna have to rethink this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't remember anything from the hypno.
Didn't I do it for you? Didn't I read through the Brian Weiss thing for you? Tried to guide you through
I think maybe one
Meditation.
time. I'm like so desperate to experience something bizarre. Like
Right.
I would love to.
Like that one
Have
night,
an
the one night
experience.
where there was that crazy star that exploded outside your window.
That was
And
crazy.
Ashley literally thought that aliens were landing.
What happened?
It ended up being
It
what?
ended up being some sort of meteor
But
situation.
It was
but
so bright. It was for like a split second. I looked at my
I was
window.
sleeping, but then it just a flash that looked like a bomb went off or something.
And it was a
super
star.
bright. I guess we looked it up
And then
later.
I went on Twitter and people were like, did anyone else see that? Did anyone else see that? So I almost felt like that aliens were coming as
yeah,
well.
it literally.
And I got
looked like
excited
it.
because I'm hoping something like that happens.
Apparently,
I would love that.
though, it's something that meteors do sometimes, and I just happened to look out the
And see
exact
it.
moment and got to see it and experience it. 'Cause it
That's
was pretty
crazy.
cool.
Yeah, that's like a once in a lifetime type of thing.
Yeah. I would like to do hypnotherapy sessions. There actually is a doctor here in LA that does it. She says she was trained by Dr. Brian Weiss.
Oh.
Her name's Stephanie Reisling. So maybe we'll
Shout
have her
out
on
to
the
Stephanie.
Yeah, maybe
Can we
we'll
get her
have
on the show?
Maybe we will.
Yeah.
She says you have to do 5 sessions. She gives you homework. Like you have to basically train yourself to get in this meditative state. It's like you have to work at it. Like just like
Yeah.
any meditation.
Right, right.
It's really hard to
It's
get
hard.
into
It's
it
hard
at
work.
first. Yeah. And then eventually you'll get really good at going back into your own memories, and then eventually you can access these past life experiences.
Wow.
See, I'd be interested in speaking with her because she's a direct disciple of
Of our boy.
our Jesus figure, Dr. Brian Weiss. It's almost
He's
like
the father of hypnotherapy.
it's almost like a cult. You know, I feel like the people who follow this train of thought and this theory
A little bit.
are
But
cultish.
I think anything that's not mainstream is a little cultish. Just by
Yeah.
nature, because it's like you find someone who believes it and everybody's like, you know, you get excited and you band together.
Yeah. I resent that thought a little bit because he's not hurting anyone. In fact, he's helping a lot of people. Like, even if it's made up.
So was Keith
it's
Raniere.
imagination.
Keith Raniere was too. He was helping people
No,
Was he the guy who,
wasn't.
like-
He was abusing people.
until he
Was he the one with
Until
the
he
Kool-Aid?
he created
No.
the slave system in his, you know,
The Vow on HBO.
on the Vow.
Oh, I haven't watched it. I gotta watch
He
that.
created like the weird like all female cult thing where he was like they were sex slaves.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
I resent the
All
comparison.
right, so you know what, that was a bit of a joke, but
Yeah, that's
all
a
I'm
big
saying-
accusation. He says whether imagination or not, these people, it really helps them with their current ailments once they're able to go back and like just remember and
Yeah.
work through and talk through something that's coming up one day.
Brian Weiss is a helpful figure for a lot of people, so I respect that.
And like later in like Only Love Is Real, he's just preaching love. He's preaching for everyone to just like love each other, know that there's like more like something bigger. There's a bigger grand scheme where it's like your life is just a puzzle piece in like the many lives that you could have, and the evolution of this planet, and you know, it's he's just saying love each other, and life is short, and like don't sweat the small stuff, and like that's literally it.
And every other cliche saying. Hey, no. I respect that he's helping people. At the end of the day, that's really what matters most, is that people have a positive
yeah,
experience and learn something about themselves and grow and feel better about themselves. So that's very powerful.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Usually it's like they remember something that is going to help them work through a traumatic experience, whether
Right.
dying or whatever.
Right.
And you could be male or female. Like, you could be black or white or every other race. Like, we've all been black, we've all been white, we've all been male, we've all been female.
How do you know?
It's very, well, that's what he's saying. Like, many of his patients have been all walks of life. From poor to rich
Donald
to
Trump's
everything.
never been black.
Maybe.
My question is, though, like, if this is true, what's bounding us to stay human? Like, how do you know you're not going to come back in your next life as a dog or, like, a plant? Like,
Yeah.
can plants be reincarnated? 'Cause
You
they're
were
living.
definitely a plant in your past life.
I'm a plant in this life. I am a nice ficus. Okay.
I think you were
Don't
like.
mess
I
with
think you were a fern.
I do
was
have
gonna
more
say
fern
fern,
energy.
too.
You give me fern energy.
That's
Fern
fair.
energy.
That's fair. Yeah, because I'm very like.
Ashley was a succulent. And I was probably a Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
Definitely. Those scare me.
Yeah, I'm scary.
I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I've a lot of times wondered about pets. I think in one of the books he does talk about pets. I think he says you can be incarnated as like a dog or animal.
So then how does that work? It just doesn't. That's the part that doesn't like jive with me, that I just don't understand.
Well,
What's that?
it's like the karma system where it's like
Yeah.
you have to learn a certain lesson, and then if you don't, you're coming back as like, you're going to have a really tough life until you learn that lesson. And then
But
I don't
does the universe really exist for us to like learn lessons? Like I feel like the universe is so much bigger than us and like our experience. I think it's a little like self-centered of us to think, yeah, like that's what this is all about. It's all
Totally
about our
agree.
experience, and like we're just getting reincarnated because we need
Yeah,
to
like
learn
what
things.
the fuck
Yeah.
are we? Like we don't.
Yeah, we don't matter.
I don't think we matter in the
I don't
grand
think we
scheme of
do
things.
either.
I've totally had that thought. But the thing is that
And you sent me a video a couple of weeks ago that really just zooms out of Earth into all its separate galaxies.
Yeah, I think you sent
all
that to
the
me
universes.
too. Yeah, and like all the galaxy, and it's just like
And
how
it's
we're
like-
small,
So small.
and tiny
We're
we are.
minuscule, and it just comes back to that question: like, does anything matter?
No,
Does the human experience even matter?
no. That's what I
the
tell
answer's-
myself.
The answer is very likely no.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I tell myself whenever like I have like an issue or I'm like worried about what people think. It's like, oh, none of this matters at all, at all. We're all gonna die one
It's
day.
true.
None of this, and it's like kind of freeing in a way. It really is.
Totally.
Like it sounds really bleak, but if you don't look at it that way, if you look at it more of like,
Yeah.
this is the time to enjoy and experience and just like do whatever and live your life, it's so like liberating.
totally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had this thought too. I used to be like pretty like nothing matters. Like we just happen to
We're
evolve
just
on
all
this planet. and
bags
we're
of
just
chemicals
here.
walking
Yeah.
around.
But
Bags of chemicals.
That's literally what we are.
I have bags of them. I think though that there's
You're
in
a really
my
hot
mind,
bag of chemicals. Sexy bag of chemicals, you.
That's what's funny to me is like some bags of chemicals can be like attractive and some can be like, oh, not so attractive.
That's an ugly bag of chemicals.
and that like
Jeez.
determines like your life.
Dude,
Um,
what happened to
It
that bag of
determines how
chemicals?
nice people are going to be to you.
Yeah.
How nice other bags of chemicals
Yeah.
will be to you.
I don't like the term bags.
Ew, stop saying
so
it. Yeah.
weird.
Go on, what were you going to
No,
say?
it is okay. So
Sacks of
I
chemicals.
do think
Oh, that's
though
worse.
that there is like, do you believe energy exists though?
What do you mean by energy?
Like molecules, energy,
charged particles, like
Well, yeah. I mean,
isn't
substance.
that's science, right?
Right. So it's
Right?
like, yeah.
Science.
I just think that
Science.
like there's a possibility of like a collective consciousness of the universe, right? It's energy, it's consciousness, it's like all the knowledge of the universe all at once, all in one. You know what I mean? It's a very abstract thought, but I think potentially we are made of that. Like our consciousness is a part of that, but we're living in a body, we're having a human experience because just to get us to that level. Like we use like what, 10% of our brains or something. We're like on.
Is that really true, though? I have always heard that, but is it really true?
It is true.
Yeah.
We don't use a significant portion of our brains.
So then what is it doing there?
No one knows.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But there are certain people that are like able to unlock more of their brain, like me.
And Albert
and
Einstein.
we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I think there's like geniuses that really like make us go farther on in technology and just like life on Earth that are able to access more. But that's like besides the point. I think, we're physical beings having an experience to get us to the level of consciousness where we no longer need a body. Like, I don't know, it's a very abstract concept, and I don't even know the answers or whatever, but I've come to this kind of like conclusion just by researching stuff like this, and it just kind of makes sense that there's energy, there's consciousness, there's knowledge, there's like whatever you call it, God or love or just consciousness or energy, whatever you want to call it. There's something there in the universe that I think we possess part of. Like maybe that's the spirit in us, the soul, or whatever it is that animates us, that makes us think larger and big and want to go to space and want to, but I think we know just a tiny little speck of information.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So,
we don't know the way majority of it.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things Brian Weiss says is that you can be incarnated on other planets too.
That's the other thing I was going to say is like, who's to say you're bound to Earth?
You're not. He calls Earth
Of course he's saying that.
School, basically, that a lot of souls go to because we're so
school?
Yeah, basically.
See, that I don't buy.
Guys, it's fiction.
He lost me
And
there.
other planets are like way farther advanced. Like that's like the university and like we're like elementary school. Like
You're losing Sarah.
I know.
You've lost me. Wait, how would he even know that? Because what is he comparing Earth to?
So
how does he know if that is
planets.
true?
Sounds like Brian Weiss is
that
trying to like start a Scientology movement. In a
Yeah,
way.
like how does he know that we're not university and that some other?
Because we're just not that intelligent beings compared to what could be on other planets.
I agree with that. But my point is, like, I agree that obviously there's so many other planets and so many other galaxies. We cannot possibly be the most advanced. It just can't be.
Yeah.
But
it could be, but probably not.
It could be, is the thing, but probably not. But like,
how
does he know? How does it?
Well, he did have a patient that claimed to
he had a patient that claims they're from another planet. So
No,
and they said that planet.
No,
is
it's
university.
Listen.
He didn't say the name of the planet. This is a theory, right?
It must be true.
This is just a theory, just like any other scientific theory.
No, I know.
This isn't scientific,
I'm just.
It is.
That's what I'm trying to say.
It's anecdotal evidence from a patient of his.
An anecdote.
All science is a bunch of anecdotal evidence compiled together to make a hypothesis. What else? What do you think
science
is?
True science is math-based.
Well, there's a lot of math equations
and it's not
for the universe.
It's not hearsay from some random psycho.
Anyway, he was this guy who like. This is the guy's story. I forget his name, but he felt very out of place on Earth, and he was like into science fiction stuff, and he was just like kind of weird, and he was like having trouble, and his parents were like, go to therapy. He ends up going to Dr. Brian Weiss, and he gets regressed into another life, and he says he's from another planet.
He's Zoran.
Yeah. He said he was like, oh, in this life I was on this planet, name. And I don't know. He said, and there's another like in the first book that he wrote, that main client that like started all this.
Yeah.
Spoke from the masters too. It was like an in-between place of not in a body. All right, just bear with me.
No,
I'm
listening.
I'm
listening.
She would get really like a weird voice, and it didn't sound like her. It didn't sound like it was like a deep voice and very like wise, and she would almost speak in like riddles.
Sounds like The Conjuring too.
Yeah, it's like kind of scary, and it was like we are the masters. Like we are like I don't know. There are spiritual beings that are like more evolved than us, basically, is how she explained it.
The Masters on CBS.
She would say like really just like weird, profound things from this like middle area where she was channeling a master or something. So it was like a master spirit, like
she was just schizophrenic.
That's Layne's.
What makes me
simple.
What I find
Brian Weiss
funny,
is like, oh, the masters. He's like,
right.
Oh, this must mean she was in a past life. She was a master.
That's what I find.
But I'm
funny.
like any other therapist would be like, she has multiple personality disorder. She is schizophrenic.
What I
Layne,
find funny
There's something
is,
seriously wrong
like,
with her brain.
This
and
man with
don't
a
you
degree.
think he looked into that though? Like
No, I don't think he did. I think he wrote a book about it and made money off of it.
Like, he ruled it out.
This man with a degree
He
from
didn't- he
Columbia and Yale Medical School.
Mm-hmm.
This guy says, yeah, I'm not from Earth. I'm from this other planet. And, like, this guy with these incredible degrees and credits is like, yeah, okay, yeah. He says he's from another planet. So, guys, hey, everybody, listen up. There are other galaxies and Earth is,
There are
from
other
what I hear, this
galaxies.
guy told me.
Well, there are.
But who's to say you can't incarnate on another planet if you can
It's
incarnate
not
on this
impossible,
planet?
Ashley, but is it likely at all?
I think it is likely
Oh my God.
It probably is, because why would you be bound
to one planet.
to one?
It makes zero sense.
Hey, I got no idea.
Listen, in the book, he talks about schizophrenia, he talks about other disorders, and he talks about how he rules them out. Like, you didn't read the book, so obviously it's easy. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a valid point. Like, it is valid.
It's the most valid point. It's the only point that needs to be made, actually.
He says, like, in all of these cases, like, I've been as doubtful as
I've been as doubtful as I possibly could, but I just saw
to write a book about
I
it.
just saw the millions of dollars I could potentially make, and I just had to write the book.
Look, I had to put my kids through school.
Can you blame the guy?
I'm Dr. Brian Weiss, okay?
Look, let's say all this shit is real, though. Like,
Then I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna give you a golf clap. I'm gonna be
like, what if he
Golf
didn't
clap.
share this information with everyone? Like, that would be like,
if he
I
didn't
think, a
share this
travesty.
information with everyone,
Yeah.
I mean, he
Like, these are just studies. These are patients of his. This is the experience. He, as a very educated person with degrees and everything, has, like, deduced that he's just the messenger, essentially. Like, he's just saying, this is what happened.
don't shoot the messenger.
It's kind of true.
Messages from the masters.
Don't
Message
shoot
received.
the messenger.
I don't know. I think it's really interesting stuff, and I would rather him share this stuff than to hold it back.
No doubt it's interesting. I'm glad he shared it as well. It's very interesting.
I agree with you, and I'm glad he shared it, especially like the anecdotal stuff where it's like you can't possibly explain that
Did
stuff.
these patients actually allow him to share their information, by the way? Or is he just
I'm
doing
sure
it?
they did.
I'm sure.
they did.
That would be
But
so unethical.
he probably changed names. I think.
Yeah,
Probably,
maybe
but-
depending on
Be
the
very. It
patient.
would be very unethical if he didn't.
Just what I like not even take issue with. What I get skeptical with is when he starts saying things like, "Look, Earth is just a school for other planets," and starts making claims like that based off of what he's heard from his patients. It's like, wait, hang on a second. Like, you can, tell us about these experiences and let's try to figure out what's going on. But please don't, like, start preaching about the universe and, like, making assumptions that you just don't know. I find that dangerous.
Because based on this one person's wild experience saying that there are multiple schools on other planets, he's going to get all these people that are reading these books worked up potentially into thinking that this is a possibility. Like you, Ashley. It's not a possibility. I'm sorry. It's a possibility, but it's a very, very, very small possibility that this is what's happening.
I think he's just trying to draw a comparison to help explain it in terms that we can understand, because it's such a, like, out there crazy kind of thing to wrap your head around. We honestly can't as humans. He's not the only person to come forward with these stories. And I think in conjunction with the phenomenon of children that remember past lives, and then near-death experiences and other unexplained, just, like, spiritual phenomenon, if you, like, compile all of those things, there's a question here. Like, I think it's worth...
The near-death experience stuff
looking
is more interesting to me, or, like, holds more weight to me. That's the stuff that I find, like, a little bit more credible, I guess.
What does that entail? What do you mean?
These people who have nearly died or did die were technically pronounced dead for, like, a moment in the hospital, and then were brought back to life.
Mm-hmm.
And they say they can remember every moment from after they died. Like, this one woman, they were operating on her, and then all of a sudden she dies on the table. And she claims she left her body and could see everything in the operating room and could, saw them start freaking out and bringing her back to life. And she's, like, on the ceiling, like, looking down at this. And then, the doctor said, she explained it to the doctor afterward. They ended up bringing her back to life, and she explained it to the doctor later on after she was, like, healthy again. And he said, like, she was explaining things that she couldn't have possibly seen or, like, been conscious to
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like those type of stories to me are just so.
There's a lot of cases like
There's a
that,
lot
too.
of that stuff.
People that
I
died
believe-
for a little while.
I
in
believe
a car
that
crash and then.
that has a lot to do with the DMT being released from your brain.
Yeah, I think it has to do with
And
DMT
you kind of
and like
go
your
through
consciousness.
a trip, and you could have an out-of-body experience.
Right.
I don't know if that explains seeing things that actually definitely happened in the room that she couldn't have possibly been awake for, but maybe she fabricated some of those things and the doctor said, oh, that did happen.
Here's my question. If your brain is dead, like she was dead, pronounced dead, her brain
But
has no
the
function.
last thing your brain does is release a chemical that
Right.
creates a trippy environment.
But wouldn't your brain need to be active and alive to be able to
You could still
experience or
remember it.
remember
You
it?
can still remember it. She still have her memories. Her brain's not completely dead. The endings are. I mean, you still
Isn't that
get
what death is?
memory is still stored in that brain, I believe.
Even if it dies.
It's dead.
I don't think the
There's
brain is completely dead. She's alive. She wasn't brain dead, right? She's
no,
alive. She's
no brain function means they're dead.
Wait, she's telling the tale though.
Yeah, because they come back. These are miraculous
alive.
situations where they come back alive.
She's alive.
There was one woman who was
believe
literally had no oxygen to her brain for 30 minutes.
Okay, but her
Like,
brain is still
pronounced
functioning
dead.
afterwards. So her brain is not completely dead. It's not cut off from the body. If she's not like
But
she's
it is,
brain
though.
dead. Her body's functioning afterwards, and her brain is functioning.
After
don't
it
know.
shut down, though, like it was shut. She was pronounced
It was
dead.
off. It was off, and now it's back on, and functioning
Yeah.
and firing. So the same memories are still in that brain.
Yeah,
But
the same
why would
memories.
she?
Like
stored in
this,
the brain.
this doctor said that she was able to see things. Like when they brought her into the operating room, she wasn't conscious. She was dying clearly, and couldn't see. Like her eyes were closed. She was completely out of it.
I'd be interested to hear the things that she saw.
And she was out of her body. Her
she
perspective was
explained-
out of her
yes,
body.
her perspective was out of her body, and she explained like the tools that were laid out and these very specific tools. And she said one of them looked like a dentist tool, like for
Every
electric
surgical office has
toothbrush.
that, though.
Yeah.
Yes, but she
Very
explained
surgical
each and
room.
every individual tool, and the doctor was like blown away that she could explain all the. And
See-
she explained things that happened in the room while she was dead.
What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that potentially she fabricated some of it during her trip and said and relayed that information to what she saw to the
Why?
doctor, and the doctor was like,
What's
"Oh wow!"
the point
Maybe
of
the doctor was
fabricating
just
that?
taken aback
Right.
that she had some sort of experience,
I don't
and
see
then
the point
made
of
the story
fabricating.
match to her story.
That sounds more far fetched than the idea that maybe she had this
No, it
out of body
doesn't.
experience.
I think a little.
Honestly.
I think there could have been similarities to what she saw
There,
to what
she's
happened.
not the only one, though. That's where there's
Yeah, there's
thousands
a
and
lot of
thousands
these
cases, and a lot of the
And what
time,
I'm saying
their
is that it
perspective
has
is
to
out
do
of their
with
body
the
completely.
trip that is happening in your mind, the last thing that you see, the last thing that you feel,
I mean, it could be.
Yeah, I
Could
mean,
be.
you have a point.
and then you wake up and you're like, "Whoa,
that happened.
that
Yeah.
happened! Oh my
Yeah.
god!"
Mm-hmm.
But
And you
what-
feel that drug trip, that weird, wild chemical reaction that happened in your mind when you died. You feel
Right.
that,
But that
and you
doesn't
internalize
explain.
it, and then it could you don't understand because you haven't been there, you know.
Yeah, people have out of body experiences not on drugs, though.
Yeah, I do all the time.
Really, like when?
Yeah.
I dissociate sometimes.
And
So
you
what
have-
is that like?
It's very scary. It's not ideal.
So it's not a good.
It's
Out-of-body
anxiety
experience.
driven. It's almost like a trip.
And you feel like you're like looking at yourself and like the room. From
I
a
just feel
different
like disconnected
perspective.
from my mind.
Huh.
So where is your perspective, though? Are you looking at yourself from outside
I
of
just
your
feel
body?
I don't feel like myself, you know?
I think that's a different thing.
It's not that much different.
But we're explaining experiences where people are literally viewing their
yeah,
body
I
from
just
outside of their
I
body,
dissociated in Germany.
and in multiple places at once.
I did. Yeah, I saw myself running to the bed in Germany.
But where were you?
In an apartment. I was right behind myself.
See, yeah, that's.
Is that the story you told us the other day
What do you mean?
when you were like dreaming or something? You were in a hotel room.
And you thought
It wasn't a
someone gave you the wrong pills, and you.
that well that was the same trip, the same vacation.
Oh, okay.
Wow, a lot of shit happened to you.
Yeah,
on this vacation.
eventful trip. Don't
Yeah.
go to Germany.
That was Sweden, but then Germany was afterwards, and I was partying a lot, and it just put my brain and body in a really horrible place.
Yeah, it was taxing.
And mix that with anxiety, and then the time of year, because it was winter in Europe and it was getting dark very early, so it was a perfect storm. And then I just felt it all of a sudden, like I was having like palpitations almost, and then like kind of felt like I was losing my mind.
Mm.
And then I saw myself like I was running to the bed and like running into the room to like just run into bed. And
Oh God.
And you saw yourself running.
I saw
into the
myself
bed.
running. I was behind myself basically.
Wow.
Whoa.
So what is your main diagnosis? Do you attribute that to anxiety?
It's part anxiety. I mean, I think I have a lot of things going on, but they're all anxiety based in my opinion.
So you're saying that the chemical imbalances in just your brain because you're
The chemical imbalances created a situation where I felt like I was outside of my body. And that's the most scientific reasoning for anyone ever feeling that they are outside of their body, is that it has something to do with your brain chemistry. It's the only way it's possible, in my opinion. It's very possible, I mean, I guess, not very possible, but slightly possible, that your soul can leave your body and you can see things, but I feel like it definitely has more to do with your an imbalance in your brain chemistry. And when you die, certainly there's going to be a crazy imbalance. And also DMT is being released. So it's a perfect storm of crazy things happening in your brain that could create an environment where you're seeing something otherworldly, where you're seeing something where you feel like you saw yourself hallucinating.
It's an interesting take that you're saying even though the brain has ceased to function, if it miraculously becomes revived, you're going to remember the DMT trip basically that your
Because it
brain
was so
underwent.
shocking to the brain. It was the last thing you would have remembered. And you would have been going through it and you'd be coming out of that state.
It's interesting. It's an interesting thought. A lot of I would think that memory would almost be in like the subconscious though.
But it was it's so fresh.
Right.
It's like what happens when you go through a crazy trip of some sort of wild drug, LSD,
Right.
DMT,
Right.
anything, Molly even. When you come out of that, you're in a different state. But you you remembered how you felt.
Like if
and
you
by remembering how you felt, you can attribute that to memories as well.
Right.
So do you believe in
make something
multiple dimensions?
Yes.
Because that's scientifically proven.
Yes.
So, but what's to say that when you're on DMT or when you're having an experience like that, you're not in another dimension? Some part of you, some energetic part of you,
could
is in
potentially
another dimension.
you could potentially see other dimensions, or maybe
Be in
even
them.
travel between them.
What are these
Possible.
other dimensions that have been proven?
I mean,
This is news to me.
yeah, it's I think it's in quantum physics theory that they've proved like multiverses, like multiple universes.
Right.
I'm not well versed enough in this topic to really
I'd like to
speak on
do
it,
some
but
more research, and we should actually have like an episode on it,
Right.
on multiple dimensions and that. But I'm pretty sure I read in some scientific journal.
No, it's definitely been scientifically, or
proven.
at least very close to proven
Whoa.
that there are multiple
Dimensions.
Yeah, multiple dimensions. It's the multiverse theory, but
That's pretty crazy.
so there's potentially.
So
a
why do you
dimension-
believe in that, but not in like?
It's science. It's simple.
Yeah, but can't they be connected? I mean, I don't think that you need to believe in like that, but you can't believe in, someone's soul having an out-of-body experience, a past life
Because
experience.
that's just a first-hand account from someone.
I think that they can be
It's
connected.
It's an account from someone that's gone through a traumatic experience. You can't necessarily just believe everything that person is saying. It's just it's silly to do that.
I think I think it is proven
silly.
though, when you're in a meditative state that you do recall memories. Like, who's to say you can't do that from another? Like, zoom out and like.
Okay, I'm zooming out.
Yeah, zoom out. You're in a meditative state. You can access the subconscious. We're all energy. Your body is just an experience you're having at this moment. Like, I say like a lot. What's new?
We're gonna work on that.
Yeah. But who's to say, you can't access another dimension or memory from another. I just think that there can be a connection here with science and
Yes.
these kind of spiritual
It's
theories.
possible, but it's not proven. And all of your evidence comes from people's accounts of traumatic experiences that are particularly jarring at times.
Until we get the technology to confirm it, I think we will reach.
When I go through a
potentially
traumatic
point where we can
experience,
confirm
I
these
have
things.
wild things happen in my brain too, but you know what? I'm not making scientific theories based off of them. I know that they're not true.
But what
It's
what
a different.
gets what
you're
gets
talking about something
me
totally
is like,
different.
yeah, somebody can have a near death experience and be like, I saw, you know, my dad and he told me, you know,
Because
don't
that's the most comfortable thing that they could possibly feel.
Yes. You know, I saw my dad and he told me, you still have more time on earth. You're not ready. Go back home. And then I came back here and that was my experience. Like, I understand, you know, taking that at whatever value you want because it's like it's someone's experience, you know, they died in that moment and that was what they experienced. It could be the DMT, who knows. But in situations where someone literally dies and then can recall exactly what happened after they were pronounced dead and like see the nurses rushing to, you know, bring her back to life. And this isn't just this woman who's had this experience. There's been multiple people who, you know, have recalled what's happened in the room after they died. That's what like really gets me is just the fact that it's like they're still there. And the people who were in the room were like, how does she know that? Or how does he know that? You know what I mean? What? You're laughing.
No, it's just, yeah, no, I mean, I do think it's interesting that they can recall events that happened in that same space and either other spaces that they're not physically at.
Right. Yeah, it's like there's no explanation for it.
Yeah.
How could they possibly know? So, like, that's the stuff that just really, like, makes my mind kind of go in circles.
Like, oh, maybe there is something just bigger than just like we live, we die. That's it. Once.
Maybe.
YOLO.
Maybe, but probably not.
I just think it's worth looking at. I do.
I agree.
I don't think you're as open as you think you are to the mystical, the unexplained, the...
I'm not wide open. I'm not like, arms wide open. I'm not creeding over here.
Arms wide open.
I'm
that
not
should be our theme song.
It should.
Under the moonlight.
Layne, sing it for us.
Welcome to this place.
We're going to get
I'll show
copyrighted.
you
Yeah, right.
everything.
Because you're
This is my
that
cover.
spot on.
This is my cover of the song, okay?
Layne, we
Listen,
can't afford this.
But I'm not. That's not how I am in this specific situation.
We need to get the 2 views that we're going to get. We can't get a claim on here.
Mm-mm.
Because
Okay.
you're just so good at the impression.
Well, thank you.
Wait, who sings that?
Creed.
Oh, right. Creed, Stained, Nickelback. I can't tell them apart.
I mix them up.
Creed's
I
more
do.
legendary than any of them.
I guess so. Nickelback gets a lot of flack.
For
they
no reason. It's
really
not fair.
do.
It's not fair. Not fair.
I think
We've all jammed out to a Nickelback
yeah.
song. Come on.
we look at this photograph. It's good. It's good for the soul.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Truly.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to be back here talking about aliens.
Oh, boy.
What else?
Ghosts.
What else? Ghosts. Experiences.
That'll be
with-
a fun one.
Paranormal activity.
Yeah.
It's honestly the topic I'm most passionate about.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's shocking.
I really want to believe in ghosts. I want to.
I
So
want to,
why?
too.
Huh?
Why?
I think it's fun.
That's more fun
I think
than
haunted-
past lives.
It's spooky.
Well, I do
It's
believe
exciting
I
and
do believe
spooky.
in haunted places. Whether they're haunted by ghosts or just negative energy is the question. I think it's negative energy, but I would like to believe that ghosts are real because I just love horror movies and I love the whole vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested in that kind of stuff. So
I find it interesting.
always loved Ghost Hunters.
Yeah, you do like that show.
My brother and I just grew up watching that shit. We loved it.
But see, you had an experience, a paranormal experience.
did.
So that's an anecdotal experience that I think
I've had
counts.
multiple. I've had multiple.
That's
One of them
true.
was very jarring, but the other one.
How do you know it wasn't just an experience in your brain?
Yeah, from the DM.
We'll
from
talk about
We're
it.
your
from the
chemical
DMD.
imbalances.
I think it did have to do with my brain.
Okay.
Interesting.
All
We'll
right,
we'll get
we'll
into
get
that
into
for the
that.
ghost episode
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
All right.
We're going to talk about, signs and synchronicities. We've been having a lot of those lately, guys.
Yeah.
I have some wild stories there too.
Mark Ruffalo.
We have to tell the Mark Ruffalo story for sure.
Yeah.
All right, that's all going to be next time. Thanks for hanging with us. Thanks for listening and watching.
Thank you, guys.
See you next time.
Peace out.